This next case study, I'm choosing really also because of contrast to the first one, which seemed to be a bit on the, have an overall appearance of being a very modern building. And this one, while still modern, really has much stronger traditional elements, as I hope I'll illustrate to you. And I'm really trying to open up or expand your idea about what these kind of modular curtain wall systems can actually be. So this is by Shop Architects. This is 111th West 57th Street. And this is one of those ultra thin, slender buildings that is fronting Central Park, giving the uber wealthy residences with spectacular views. And as I said, this kind of a rich traditional kind of detailing. So here we have, once again, a terracotta um, extrusion, the white, and as you see over my head. And then you can see that filigree infill, which is like a bronze metal insert over what appears to be glass. And I'm saying what appears to be because I'll kind of describe that a little bit coming up. So here's just a beautiful shot of that facade. Um, uh, I guess there's specific reasons why this side of the building looks exactly like it does. It is because it is anticipated that it will not necessarily always command views to these sides because it doesn't necessarily own the air rights to these spaces. So here's a view of that. So we have on the very far left the glassed area that would be the view out over Central Park, and then this terracotta and bronze kind of really beautiful facade along the flanking faces of the building. So a lot went into probably, these are things that I found on the internet, but these ideas of filigree patterns, a lot of discussion about how they would look, what they would mean, how they fit into, once again, the kind of historical context, how they could be something that was both referencing the old and contextual to the old and something new and fresh. So these would have gone before the historic planning boards. This is the Landmark Society presentation, a detailed view in the presentation. And you can see in this case, they're showing the profile sections of the terracotta extrusions to help give people a better sense of what these materials and features would look like on the building. And so, I mean, for us as designers, we've already been through the idea of taking and creating these kind of beautiful, we've been doing much simpler kinds of extrusions, but now you can see this expressed out in these really beautiful convoluted types of really very traditional historic looking types of extrusions. What's really cool about this extrusion, and you can actually note how this system is made. I don't believe, I'm not sure, but I don't believe this one was done by Boston Valley, but there's still a terracotta extrusion. It's clay pushed through a press out of an extrusion die. You can see the holes at the gap level there in the terracotta panel at the very bottom left-hand side. But one of the features of this, why I'm showing you this image, is the incorporation of this track of LED lighting, which would be a great way to create illuminance within the building, at night, making it a really stunning view of this building as an addition to the skyline. And once again, the idea of this being for the uber rich. So here we have what looks like almost a two-story kind of space created for an apartment. So we're talking multi-million dollar kind of high-end buildings. And you can place that in the context of your own ethics about what we as architects do and create. So here it is going up. Once again, coming back to that idea of modular construction, but this one really points out the idea of really what's in the genesis or thinking of this kind of a facade element. Is you'll notice that because it's a really tall, slender building, it needs to create a lot of structure in order to keep it from swaying. And so that was accomplished by these two massive shear walls on the flanking sides of the view. So you can see openings for windows, but you see very few openings in this facade. And as I said, partially because they don't completely own the air rights to those buildings that might be built alongside of it, and could easily be blocked from the commanding views that would exist right away had they taken them up. So we're looking at now, the idea is to not make that look like it's a solid wall. So the idea between that filigree of adding those glass panels but only in specific areas are those glass panels actually transparent to the interior. Most of the time they're just reflecting light and appearing to have a level of transparency, which is a really important concept for creating that sense of light and visual relief when you're looking at the surface of a building. The idea of seeing those punched openings, that opportunity to imagine that being something that can be a vision glass, so to speak. So once again, the idea of mock-ups, hopefully I get you comfortable with the idea of making digital mock-ups to really think through the tectonics and all the simple elements, the simple and detailed elements of your construction, and then formulate them in simple ways. You don't have to make the whole building. You can just make specific conditions within that building. But this gives you an idea of the scale of it and the beauty of it. I think if you look up, you can really from a view that you'd probably be hard-pressed to actually get in New York, because most of the time you'd be looking up at the building. So here, once again, the modular system going on. I'm not actually sure how they're getting the panels. They may be actually just passing the panels through those window openings and then building it up from there. So that is, that's our second case study, and I'll follow that up with one final case study next.